Teresa and Randy Stone were devout members of New Hope Baptist Church.
They went to church all the time.
Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night faithfully.
David Love was the church's charismatic pastor.
He just had a way about him.
And he and Teresa seemed to hit it off.
2-3 times a week, she would go to his office.
But then, Teresa discovered her husband's body.
He'd been shot once in the head.
And police uncovered her illicit affair.
It was a very affectionate love note.
And an entire congregation would be wondering, what else were the widow and the pastor guilty of?
I mean, it's just insane.
March 31st, 2010, Independence, Missouri. It was just before 5 p.m. when a frantic call came into 911. The caller, 38-year-old Teresa Stone, told dispatchers she'd just found her husband, Randy, bleeding on the floor of the insurance agency where they worked.
The description she gave was that her husband was down on the ground and wasn't breathing, and she believed him to be dead.
An officer arrived on the scene within minutes and met Teresa outside the office.
Teresa had run out the front door, met him on the lawn just in front of the office, and kind of collapsed into his arms. And at that point, he was unaware of whether or not there was someone still inside the building or what he would find if he went in.
With Teresa too distraught to give any details, the officer called for backup.
Other officers responded very quickly after that. And when they did finally get inside the building, I know they had guns drawn.
There was no need. There was only one person in the building, 42-year-old Randy Stone. And he was dead.
He'd been shot once in the head.
His body was laying in front of the copy machine in kind of a semi-fetal position.
While the patrol officers secured the scene, investigators from the Independence PD pulled Teresa aside for questioning.
My whole sense at the time was to isolate her because she's the one that found him.
Teresa told the investigators she had been at the agency most of the day, working alongside her husband.
Teresa worked with him in the office, and she was full-time with him.
But earlier that afternoon, Teresa had left Randy alone in the office while she ran some errands. And upon her return, according to Teresa, she knew that something wasn't right.
When she got there, she noticed that the door was locked, which was odd. Also, she said the blinds were shut.
Teresa said she had unlocked the door and gone inside, calling to her husband. But he didn't respond.
So she started searching office to office, and that's when she found his body in one of the offices by the copy machine.
Teresa said she'd seen the blood pooling around Randy's head and panicked, grabbing a phone off the desk nearby.
She stepped over him and used the office phone to call 911.
As far as how Randy had ended up collapsed on the floor in a pool of blood, Teresa said she didn't know. But not far from Randy's body, the officers found a clue.
They noticed the single .40 caliber shell casing on the office carpet right next to Randy's feet.
That wasn't all they found, however. In an office wastebasket, the investigators found a ripped-up note.
It was pretty much a love note.
Obviously written by someone very infatuated with a woman.
Between the love note and her husband's dead body, police immediately suspected the new widow was hiding something. Born in 1971, Teresa Greenawalt was the youngest child of a devout Christian family from suburban Kansas City, Missouri.
She had good parents. They believed in the Bible. They went to church all the time.
Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night faithfully.
4 years older than Teresa, Randy Stone had known her since childhood.
We were just all friends, you know. We just hung out together because we lived on the same street. Grew up together, went to church together.
However, the two lost touch when Randy finished high school and joined the Marine Corps.
I'm pretty sure he had a good time while he was out traveling the world.
But when Randy returned home in 1990, the 18-year-old he'd known from church quickly caught his eye.
She definitely was friendly, flirtatious, huggy,
Randy always told me what a good person Teresa was. He said she always had such a good heart.
Within weeks, they were dating.
I thought it was awesome, someone that we grew up with, someone that we had known pretty much all our life, for them to get together. So, I thought they made a cute couple.
And they moved very quickly.
Mary asked her out on a date, and that was in March, and they were married in October. So it was very quick courtship.
Married on October 13th, 1990, the couple quickly settled down, their life centering on two things. One was their church, New Hope Baptist.
She just kind of reined him in, really got Randy into the church.
He really turned more towards church and the Bible.
The other priority in the couple's life was their children. Teresa gave birth to a son in 1991, and 2 years later, they added a daughter.
Teresa was a very devoted wife and mother.
To support their growing family, Randy started selling insurance.
He was a devoted family man. He worked all the time to make sure that they didn't want for anything.
And when she wasn't taking care of their kids, Teresa worked right alongside him, helping Randy build his client list.
She would get on the phones and just start calling people out of the phone book. It didn't take long, and Randy became very successful at his agency.
And once the children were in school, Teresa joined the agency as a full-time employee.
Randy and Teresa ran the business together and worked really hard as a team.
And they remained just as devoted to one another as a couple.
Whenever he was apart from her, he was constantly on the phone with her, talking to her, and it seemed that those two were inseparable.
Always affectionate, always kissing on each other.
But as much time as the couple devoted to work, family, and their relationship, they always made time for New Hope Baptist Church.
They went to church all the time. Any activities that was going on at church, they were there.
Teresa sang in the choir on Sunday and frequently volunteered for other work.
She was always at the church, doing different things.
Randy was just as involved, albeit a bit more behind the scenes.
The church has a finance committee, and Randy's role in that was minister of records. So he was to oversee what was going on.
He was a rock for that church.
Whatever role they played, both the Stones were excited in 1999 when New Hope hired a new pastor, 38-year-old David Love.
Pastor Love proved to be a very popular, charismatic preacher.
He was younger, had some really bright ideas and visions for the church and where it could go and what we could do.
He just had a way about him.
And his door was always open, a policy Teresa was quick to take advantage of.
She would go to Pastor Love for advice or counseling 2-3 times a week. She would go to his office.
Although just what Teresa needed counseling for was tough to say.
They just seemed the model of what you would call a perfect, happy family.
And in 2004, after nearly 14 years of marriage, 33-year-old Teresa announced that their family was growing again.
We knew that she was pregnant at one point.
It was a surprise to everyone, especially Randy.
Prior to her getting pregnant, Randy had had a vasectomy.
But while some men might have been suspicious, 37-year-old Randy wasn't.
He was completely convinced that miracles happen.
Besides, after his vasectomy, Randy had neglected to ensure that the procedure had been a success.
He just didn't go and have the second test done, so we thought, it's a possibility.
Unfortunately, the baby would never be born.
Eventually, there was a miscarriage.
Devastated by the loss, Teresa turned to Pastor Love. In the aftermath of the miscarriage, their counseling sessions became an everyday occurrence.
She would go to his office, and they would meet there once or twice a day.
Over the next few years, the Stones tried to move on. Though after almost 2 decades together, the passion between Teresa and Randy was beginning to fade.
It seemed that Randy was always very much in love with her, but they struggled to keep that relationship going.
For help, Teresa and Randy turned to the man that had helped her so much in the past, Pastor Love.
Apparently, the Stones had decided the way to solve that issue was to have Pastor Love counsel to Randy.
He and Pastor Love maintained like a weekly early morning counseling session during which they would talk about various issues.
They would counsel on, Randy being a better father, a better Christian, better man, because Randy always strove for excellence.
And it wasn't long before Randy came to rely upon Pastor Love almost as much as Teresa did.
Randy Stone admired Pastor Love very much and appreciated his counsel.
At one point, he made the comment that his pastor was the most influential person in his life.
But early in 2010, Randy's friendship with his new counselor and confidant came to a sudden end once he discovered that Pastor Love had betrayed not just his trust, but the trust of the entire church. As a member of New Hope Baptist Finance Committee, one of Randy's regular responsibilities was going over the church's books.
Randy was good with finances. He ran his own business and kept his own books. And so Randy was very well aware of what the church finances were.
And on March 16th of 2010, Randy noticed something troubling about a few checks signed by Pastor Love.
There's an allegation that the checks and balances system of having two signers on a check had not been followed, that the money was somehow being siphoned away by the pastor.
Disturbed by what he had uncovered, Randy decided to confront Pastor Love.
The next morning on March 17th, he taps out this email to David Love.
He did not agree with what David Love was doing with regard to the church finances.
Pastor Love didn't admit to any wrongdoing, and Randy didn't take his finding to the church deacons or the authorities.
He was a respected insurance agent, a man known in the community who could, if he so chose, to make matters public regarding financial issues with the church.
But Randy did do something almost as drastic.
He was going to withdraw his membership from the New Hope Baptist Church and take his family with him.
It was, this is wrong, I'm not going to stand for it, I'm leaving.
However, the break wouldn't be nearly as permanent as Randy believed. In a little more than 2 weeks, Randy, Teresa, and the kids would all be back at New Hope. Only he would be in a coffin. Coming up, Teresa finds Randy dead.
He had been shot.
And the police find a potential clue.
It was a very affectionate love note.
Independence, Missouri, March 31st, 2010. It was a little after 5 p.m. that Wednesday evening when 38-year-old Teresa Stone called 911 and reported that she had just found her husband, Randy, dead.
She never said what she believed Randy had died from. She just said that there was blood coming from his ear. So there wasn't the initial indication from her that he had been shot.
The call to 911 wasn't the only one Teresa made, however.
She started calling people. At one point, she even called her parents.
From there, word of Randy's death quickly spread, even reaching Teresa and Randy's pastor.
Someone called David Love, and David Love arrived at the scene.
But first, before heading for the Stones' office, Pastor Love had notified Randy's mother.
He asked me if I was sitting down, and I said, well, yeah, because when I went outside, I always sat on the swing. And he said Randy has been shot and killed in his office.
Randy's mother rushed to the scene, adding to the gathering crowd outside the Stones insurance agency.
It was like the entire church was there. I mean, there were just dozens of people.
And the officers were standing there kind of putting up a barrier to keep people back from the office itself and the scene.
Meanwhile, inside the office, the investigators tried to piece together the evidence, starting with Randy's body. He'd been shot once in the head.
There was stippling around the area of the gunshot wound, which indicates that the shooter was at close range.
The murder weapon, based on the spent round at his feet, was a .40 caliber pistol.
We did find out right off the bat that it was a .40 caliber casing.
As for why someone had snuck up on Randy and shot him, robbery didn't appear to be a motive.
There was $150 sitting on his desk out in plain sight. That wasn't taken. His wallet wasn't taken.
Instead of a robbery, the close-range shot and lack of a struggle indicated that Randy had known his killer, or at least that it was someone whose presence in the office wasn't a concern.
What it looked like was that he had trusted the person that he was with and was not suspecting anything would happen.
But was that trust misplaced? Searching the insurance agency, the investigators made a puzzling discovery.
This was a note that they recovered from the wastebasket, torn into several pieces.
Which was kind of odd to us because it looked like somebody had done it quickly in small pieces.
And when they pieced the note back together, the investigators had a new puzzle on their hands.
And it was a very affectionate love note.
There were no names on the note and no immediate way of knowing who had torn it up. But the police wondered whether it had anything to do with Randy's murder.
It was very specific and very personal, and it had coded messages within that were obviously of a personal nature.
Hoping for answers, the investigators asked Teresa to give them a formal statement. She readily agreed, but as the investigators put Teresa into a squad car to drive her down to the station, Pastor Love tried to tag along.
The pastor approaches us out of the crowd and starts asking odd questions like, can I be in the interview room with you? Do you need me there? You need me there, don't you? You know, kind of baiting. And I said, I'm sorry, but no one can be in the interview room with her except her attorney.
And even after Teresa was in the car, the pastor didn't want to take no for an answer.
Started pulling away. He goes, I'd like to go too. And he starts reaching back for the back door to open it. And I said, sir, I'm sorry, you can't go. That was kind of odd. Then he backs off. And he was kind of not happy about that, kind of nervous. I just went on and made note of it in my head.
However, once the investigators sat Teresa down for questioning, they held off on pressing her about Pastor Love or the mysterious love note they had found in the trash. Instead, they asked her to recount the events leading up to the moment she discovered her husband's body.
You left at 1:30 then, as if you guys had lunch.
Yeah, I went to U.S. Bank.
That was only the first of a series of errands Teresa calmly detailed for detectives.
She seemed generally fine, not really what you call distraught. People handle death of a loved one differently.
She would tell investigators where she was, who she was with.
She also had receipts.
She provided those receipts to the Independence Police Department.
Her whereabouts established, the investigators turned to the murder weapon, asking Teresa if Randy had ever owned a .40 caliber pistol.
She said, I think he sold it a year ago, but she was very wishy-washy on the details, very vague.
And do you know who he sold to?
I have no idea. He doesn't tell me when he does stuff like that. I don't know anything about his guns.
That's fine.
Then, well over an hour into the interview, the investigators finally, almost casually, dropped their first hints about the note.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Back to the letters, the yellow tablet. In your trash can, they had a letter that somebody had written for about happy birthday and all that. It's about this big. It was all tore up.
When Teresa hesitated, the investigators offered to show her the note. And stepping out to retrieve it, they left her alone in the interrogation room with the cameras rolling.
It was picked up by the microphone in the room. So at that point in time, police knew that they had something that was important.
But as soon as the investigators returned to the interrogation room, Teresa quickly blew the note off.
She, shrugged it off and said, this is just from a secret admirer. I don't know who it's from. I just wanted to throw it away so that Randy wouldn't find it.
Did you tear it up and throw it in the trash?
Yeah, I just found it yesterday.
Okay.
When I was looking for it, because I scheduled my daughter for her wisdom teeth to be pulled out. Mm-hmm. So as I was going through, I found it and I just ripped it up and threw it away. I didn't really want my husband to find it.
Although according to Teresa, the note was several years old.
And you've had this note in your purse.
I totally forgot about it, to be honest with you.
That's what Teresa said, but the investigators doubted she was being honest.
The note content itself to us was kind of very personal for a secret admirer.
It seemed strange that she would just have this for 2 years and then just all of a sudden decide to throw it away on the day that her husband got murdered.
However, other than the suspicion that Teresa was hiding something about her so-called secret admirer, the investigators didn't have enough evidence to hold her.
I'll take you downstairs, let your mom in, take you to your car or whatever.
They may have sent her home, but the police were far from ready to take Teresa's name off the suspect list. Over the next several days, they questioned Randy and Teresa's friends and family, and visited all the places she said she'd gone on the afternoon of the shooting.
I was actually the one that followed up on this to go back and to get the timeline and where she was at and go back and talk to people and confirm her day.
Teresa's alibi checked out, but her story about Randy selling his .40 caliber pistol didn't.
He had had a gun as far as 2 to 3 weeks prior to the shooting and showed people this gun.
Teresa's father even told the investigators that Randy had recently brought it out to his property for a little target shooting.
They went out and took an evidence technician with them with a metal detector to the firing range and recovered all manner of spent casings. 5 were .40 caliber shell casings.
Those casings and the casing from the crime scene went to the lab for comparison to determine if Randy had been killed by his own gun.
Every firing pin strikes differently. And also there's what they call the ejector mark on the side of the gun. When you shoot it, if it's in semi-automatic, it kicks the shell casing out. Those are all unique because the guns are not made exactly the same.
It would be tougher to determine who wrote the ripped-up note found in Teresa's trash. But after talking to parishioners at Teresa and Randy's church, the investigators had a pretty good guess.
There were rumors throughout the church during that time that there was a relationship going on.
Not just any relationship either. The rumors swirling through New Hope Baptist centered on an affair between Randy's wife, Teresa, and the man who would deliver the eulogy at Randy's funeral on April 6th, Pastor David Love.
You see, there's nothing more that we can do for Randy Stone. He'll never have another thought in this body. He'll never be able to sign another policy or kiss his wife.
Coming up, Teresa makes a confession.
I am not going to protect him anymore.
But she leaves some questions unanswered.
How would Love have gotten his hands on that gun?
By April 6, 2010, Teresa Stone's husband had been dead for a week. But the police in Independence, Missouri already had a promising lead regarding his murder. Teresa and Randy's church was rife with rumors that she had been having an affair with the pastor, David Love, the man who had just delivered Randy's eulogy.
That's a big lead. That's a big open door that we had to go look into.
Rumors of an affair weren't the only reason the police suspected Teresa either. On the afternoon of the funeral, the investigators spoke with one of Randy's colleagues at Farmers Insurance and learned that Teresa was already trying to cash in on her late husband's policies.
After Randy's murder, she was asking about that life insurance, inquiring as to how much, when she would get paid, how it would be dispersed.
Questioned by the police, Randy's colleague explained how he had dropped by the Stones' house on April 1st to offer his condolences.
She suggested that we go in and go down to their office and look at some of the policies. So she had already pulled them out and was going through them, totaling up the amount, so she knew exactly how much money was coming.
Randy's various policies added up to a considerable sum.
This was a little over $800,000.
An illicit affair and almost $1 million? Taken together, the authorities believe that Teresa had a clear motive for murder.
It wasn't just a love affair for her, it was the money. She was seeing dollar signs.
On April 20th, 2010, investigators brought Teresa in for another round of questioning. And this time, confronted about her affair with Pastor Love, Teresa quickly broke down.
I already know what you're going to say, but I have to hear it from you. I have to hear it from you.
Yes, we had sex. Okay. You know that.
Teresa admitted that David Love had written the note found at the crime scene and that she had been having an affair with him for the past 10 years. She also admitted that he had fathered the child she miscarried in 2004.
Was there ever a time when you became pregnant with David's child?
Yeah.
But when the investigators pressed her about Randy's murder, Teresa said she didn't do it. But she said she knew who did.
She rolled over on him. She rolled over on the pastor. It became, it's all on him.
So he said he pulled the trigger?
Teresa said that David Love had talked about killing his wife, too.
He said that he wished he could just break her neck and put her in her car and send her over a cliff.
And when did Teresa learn all this? She told the police that it was all after the fact. According to Teresa, David had come to her the day after the shooting and confessed to killing Randy.
And I walked out of the room and I never talked to him anymore after that. I am not going to protect him anymore.
She was willing to admit to very poor behavior on her part, but she seemed to stop short of at any time implicating herself in anything criminal.
Had Randy's decision to leave the church and take Teresa with him driven the pastor to murder? To prove her innocence, Teresa offered to cooperate with the investigation. While the detectives listened in, she placed a call to Pastor Love and attempted to wring out a confession.
I need to know, David. I need to know why. I need to know why you killed my husband. Please. I can't live like this anymore.
However, before the pastor could respond, his wife came on the line.
Teresa, what do you want with David? What do you want with my husband?
Love quickly hung up, leaving the police little choice other than to bring him in for questioning. But when they picked him up later that same day, he proved far less forthcoming than Teresa had.
They sit down with him, read him his rights, ask if he wished to make a statement, and he declined.
I definitely need some kind of representation. I'm a preacher. I don't know the law.
David Love said very little. They just couldn't get it out of him.
In fact, all Love offered up was an alibi.
According to his statement, he was not there. He was up north attending a funeral.
And with nothing but Teresa's statement to go on, the police had little choice but to release him.
They had no physical evidence linking him to the scene. They had an incredible amount of evidence of an affair. I will say that.
David didn't confess anything to the police, but he did go home and confess to the affair.
He had had a very frank conversation with his wife and family.
Then, 2 days after being questioned by the police, Love called a meeting with the deacons from New Hope Baptist Church and turned in his resignation.
He apologized for committing the sin of immorality.
Finally, within weeks of his resignation, Love packed up and left town with his wife.
He hadn't been charged, and he was not under arrest, so there was an opportunity for him to leave the jurisdiction.
When he did move to South Carolina, he got a job making an honest living as a truck driver.
The revelations about Pastor Love and Teresa and their possible involvement in the murder hit Randy's family hard.
My uncle worked so hard nearly every minute of every day to give her everything she wanted. And for 10 years, she has been having an affair with our pastor. I mean, it's just insane.
I said, these are people that I love, people that I've known. They would never do anything like that.
Meanwhile, the investigators were focused on the physical evidence they needed to build a case against both David and Teresa.
They wanted it to be solid because an acquittal is not something you want to have happen. And, they told us it was going to be better this way.
And the evidence was starting to come together. First, the ballistics results came back confirming that the shell casing found at the crime scene matched the ones recovered from Teresa's parents' property.
According to Mr. Greenewald, Randy had been the only one out there with a handgun.
Randy had, in fact, been murdered with his own handgun.
But if David Love was the shooter, that left one lingering question.
How would Love have gotten his hands on that gun?
According to friends and family, Randy normally kept his weapons locked up in a gun safe. But they also told police that Teresa knew the code.
They theorized that at one point she had given Love the passcode to get into the gun safe.
Proving that could be tricky. But breaking Love's alibi for the time of the shooting was
Teresa
a simple matter of pulling
day.
the phone records.
From those phone records, we were able to piece together the timeline, as well as put where David and Teresa were on that day approximately.
Teresa's phone records backed up her alibi about running errands. But the same couldn't be said for David's claim that he was at a funeral north of town when the shooting occurred.
Where he said he was at was wrong. It placed him clear up out of the area into another area, which was closer to the actual homicide during the time of the homicide.
Coupled with Teresa's statement, the busted alibi gave the investigators what they needed.
That was plenty enough that the prosecutors issued a warrant for his arrest, and we went after him.
On November 9, 2010, the Missouri authorities flew to South Carolina and arrested David Love.
There was no drama. He did not try to escape. The deputies put a pair of cuffs on him.
But if the investigators hoped that an arrest would finally convince Love to turn on Teresa, they were mistaken.
Pastor Love's response was along the lines of, well, I just would really want to talk to a lawyer. Detective Rosewarren goes on to say, but there's a lot of folks back in Independence who need closure on this. And then Pastor Love says something interesting. He says, Randy was my friend too.
Coming up, Teresa prepares to testify against David.
She came in and gave a deposition of her own free will.
But will she give up more than she intended?
She implicated herself far more than anyone else could have.
In November of 2010, 7 months after Teresa Stone had called 911 and reported finding her husband Randy dead, it looked as if police in Independence, Missouri had finally solved his murder. On November 9th, the authorities had arrested the Stones' former pastor, David Love, and charged him with first-degree murder.
By then, Pastor Love is working as a truck driver in South Carolina.
There were no problems. He waived extradition. He was returned here without any fight.
But would that be the final arrest in the case?
My real thought at that time was, okay, now they've got him. How much longer is it going to take for them to arrest her as well?
In statements to the police, Teresa had admitted to having an affair with David Love. But the police suspected that she was far more involved. Suspicions that centered on the fact that Randy had been killed with his own gun.
Teresa had access to the handguns. So Teresa, of course, became a suspect.
But while Teresa had given the police plenty of evidence against David, both before and after his arrest, he had said very little to police.
They knew they couldn't prosecute Teresa based on anything David had offered them because he had not made any statements at all.
Teresa was still talking, however. On November 30th, 2010, she and her attorney sat down with the prosecutors as they prepared to take David's case to trial.
She came in and gave a deposition to the prosecutor's office of her own free will.
They needed her to give her testimony in David's trial in order to get a conviction.
But the prosecutors also wanted to get Teresa. So when she sat down to give her deposition, many of the prosecutors' questions centered on Teresa's earlier statements about the murder weapon.
What she was telling us, a lot of it matched up. The only thing that didn't match up was how the pastor got the gun.
The investigators believed that Teresa had given David the combination to Randy's gun safe. And when the prosecutors ran that theory by Teresa during the deposition, she confirmed it.
What she told us at the prosecutor's office was that she had given David the garage code to the house. She had given him the security code to the gun safe.
She implicated herself far more than anyone else could have.
But that wasn't all Teresa said to implicate herself in the murder plot.
Teresa Stone recalls how she sent a text message to Pastor Love on March 16th saying that she wanted Randy out of her life.
She had said that she wanted Randy dead.
Access to the murder weapon and David's motive. The deposition had paid off even more than the prosecutors had hoped.
She came clean with prosecutors about some of their lingering questions, big questions, that she had refused to answer.
And those answers were as damaging to Teresa as they were to David.
Teresa's own statement was probably the strongest evidence against Teresa.
So everything that she had said was now going to help them in pressing charges against her.
Thanks to Teresa's own testimony during the deposition, the police finally had enough evidence for an arrest warrant. On May 31st, 2011, more than a year after her husband's death, Teresa Stone was arrested for her role in the murder plot.
Teresa was charged with conspiracy to commit murder in the first degree, which is a class below the charge that David Love was charged with. And that decision was based upon the evidence and the facts that we had that we believe we could prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
Once Teresa was arrested, Randy's friends and family figured that closure was finally in sight.
It was a sense of relief. It was a sense that everything is coming to a head. The investigation has worked. They've gotten all the information they needed to have a strong enough case to make it stick.
Yet their relief also had a bittersweet edge.
It's a good feeling, but yet it's not a good feeling because of the friendship that we had. Because she was my sister-in-law for so long, and like I said, we grew up. I've known her all my life.
However, Randy's family members weren't the only ones troubled by Teresa's arrest. Thanks to the additional details in her deposition, Love and his attorney were beginning to doubt his chances if the case went to trial.
David Love, his attorney, asked us for a plea offer.
Love's attorney told the prosecutors he would be willing to plead guilty, but only if the prosecutors reduced the charge to second-degree murder.
The prosecutor had said, yeah, I'd give you life on murder 2, which translates to roughly a 30-year sentence.
More importantly, second-degree murder would mean Love would be eligible for parole.
He has to serve 85% of his sentence in Missouri for probation and parole purposes. Life is calculated at 30 years, so he'll be eligible after 85% of 30 years.
A chance at parole was enough for David. On November 9, 2011, less than 6 months after Teresa's arrest, he pled guilty to second-degree murder.
So it's ultimately his decision, and he ended up accepting the plea.
But that was all that David Love did. If prosecutors thought the former pastor would finally tell them his side of the story, they were wrong.
David just took responsibility. He admitted to the elements of the crime, but he didn't make any statements outside of those elements.
He never told the investigators where to find Randy's missing gun.
He never did divulge what happened to the weapon.
And more importantly, David still refused to implicate Teresa in the murder.
He was Mr. Gallant to her. You know, he believed that no matter what, I'm not going to tell on her.
Suddenly, it was the prosecutors who were feeling the pressure. Without David's cooperation, all they had against Teresa were her own statements. And that's why in the spring of 2012, they approached Teresa with a deal: plead guilty to conspiracy in exchange for a reduced sentence.
She was offered a lid of 10 years, which means that the maximum sentence she could receive was 10 years.
The 10 years was only the maximum that she faced, however. There was a chance she could get less. And on April 30th, 2012, Teresa took the deal, pleading guilty to conspiracy to commit murder.
I can't tell you exactly why she pled guilty, only that she did.
She must have assumed that she was going to get off easy. She had provided damaging evidence against Love. She single-handedly implicated him in this.
Coming up, Teresa makes a final plea for mercy.
I'm so sorry.
But will it sway the judge's sentence?
She was going to get away with hardly anything.
On June 15, 2012, Teresa Stone was back in a Jackson County, Missouri courtroom for sentencing. It had been 2 months since the 40-year-old mother of 2 had pled guilty to conspiracy to commit murder. In March of 2010, Teresa's lover, Pastor David Love, had shot and killed her husband, Randy.
A lot of it was based upon the idea that Teresa would be a pastor's wife and that David would continue at New Hope Baptist Church.
But the police investigation had interfered with those plans. In November of 2011, David Love had pled guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison.
Based on his plea agreement, he will eventually be eligible for parole. However, just because he's eligible does not mean that he is paroled. He can't be held for the rest of his natural life.
In April of 2012, Teresa had also pled guilty to conspiracy to commit murder.
For her cooperation with David Love's case, she was given a partial plea. So her maximum sentence would then be 10 years.
But Teresa's cooperation didn't mean prosecutors intended to let her off easy. They came to court that Friday, prepared to argue for the full 10 years.
Prosecuting attorney wanted our family to be heard, and they had asked me to prepare a statement, which I did read in court. He has robbed their children of their father, memories which they deserve to have with him.
But while Randy's family asked the judge to give Teresa the maximum sentence, Teresa and Randy's 2 children, aged 18 and 20, asked the judge for leniency.
It was heart-wrenching to see, so it was very emotional.
But no one in the courtroom that day was more emotional than Teresa.
I'm so sorry that I have allowed myself to get caught up in these bad choices that have led to the death of my husband.
She was crying so hard you couldn't understand anything she was saying. She was gripping the table. She was begging for mercy.
In response, the judge sentenced Teresa to 8 years in prison.
I think there was a bit of shock on her part, just because she did so much to help investigators.
She really thought she was going to get away with hardly anything.
8 years hardly seemed like enough to Randy's family, but it was the only way they would see justice at all.
We were hoping for more, but, to get David, we had to have Teresa's testimony. And Teresa turned on David, but David never turned on Teresa, so we got what we got.
Had she never made a statement, it is entirely possible that no one would have been arrested and no one would have gone to jail.